guys, Mir here, back again for another video, and it already feels very strange to be doing a pre-filmed / edited video versus my usual lives. I've been trying to do a live here on YouTube every single Wednesday, so definitely check those out if you have not already. But in the meantime, we are here talking about microcurrent for the beginner. Whether you already have a handheld microcurrent device at home, or you are looking for one, or perhaps you're considering picking one up as a gift for a family member or a loved one, whatever it is, that's what we're going to be covering today. You know, I think that the GTO technique is, while it's my personal favorite, it is very involved. There's a lot of anatomy knowledge required, a lot of technique. So not everyone is going to be ready for that GTO technique, which is going to be most similar to like a professional microcurrent treatment, where a handheld can be really helpful. Again, if you're new, or maybe you're on the go, you're traveling a lot, or some of you guys already actually get microcurrent facials in office, and you just want a handheld device like the NuFace Mini or the regular full-size NuFace, just to kind of maintain results in between those professional visits. Whatever the reason is, we're going to be covering that today. A lot of you guys have requested content on just kind of optimizing your handheld microcurrent device treatments. That's what we're going to do. I will put timestamps down below just so you can skip ahead. Whether you just want to go right ahead to skin prep or kind of more information about microcurrent, the treatment itself. As you can see, my skin is bare here because we're going to be doing a little demo as well. The very last thing I'll add before we jump into it for real is that I'm timing this video so that it should go up the last day of the Dermstore sale. So if you watch this the day that I upload it and you're interested in the NuFace Mini that I'm going to be using here, you should be able to still pick it up on sale over at Dermstore. They also have the full size. You can see this is the cute little holiday version with the sparkles. The other thing too is that this is part of the Dermstore holiday gift guide campaign. They reached out and asked me if there was anything that I would recommend as a gift around this time of the year and if I wanted to do a video around that. I said yes, I'm actually doing a handheld microcurrent video, and we decided to team up for this video. If you guys have followed me for a while, you already know the deal, but I will reiterate it super quickly for anybody new. I do not do sponsored content. That's just what works for me. I like to be able to get on here and film a video and just say whatever is on my mind, the pros, the cons, the good, the bad, and that's just what works for me and my content. I buy 99% of the products and devices that I talk about here, and I test them, and if I happen to like them, then in some instances I'll be able to offer an affiliate code. That's the only kind of monetization that I offer. I do accept the occasional product or device for free if it's from a brand that I have worked with before and I've bought from them as a customer first, but again, I buy 99% myself. In this instance, Dermstore sent me the NuFace Mini after you guys had already voted on it. I already knew I was going to pick it up anyway. And I've worked with Dermstore before in the previous video, actually featuring these products here, which I had already owned, already had and loved, and I really enjoyed working with them. They just kind of let me come on here and do my thing. They were really open and flexible, and I had a really wonderful experience with them, both as a prior customer and as a creator. So enough of that, let's just jump right into it. Okay, it is getting dark here at 4 o'clock, so I will probably be filming at night for the indefinite future. It is what it is. But microcurrent. In chatting about microcurrent, it's important to kind of point out that we have electrical signals in the body already. Excitable cells like neurons, carry electrical impulses, and we use this to kind of send messages, and they're essential for life, really. But what you may not know is that most cells in the body have the ability to conduct a current. This enables these cells to kind of act as a battery, essentially, and generate the ATP that we use for countless cell processes. Microcurrent is designed to mimic the electrical signals that we have in the body. So they're going to be very weak. Microcurrent should be subsensory. This means that you should not feel it. It should not cause muscle contraction. It's measured in microamps, which is very, very small. Now, beyond microamps, there are different ways that we can measure and look at various microcurrent frequencies, whether, again, it's the duty cycle, it's the frequency, etc. But we're going to keep it to the microamps in this video, as again, we're just keeping it very basic as it's an intro. So just know that you want a microcurrent device that is under 500 microamps, as this is going to allow for optimal ATP production. Now, Dr. Thomas Wing is really the pioneer of the microcurrent field when it comes to aesthetics. We do know that for medical applications, microcurrent has been proven to aid in wound healing, but it was Dr. Thomas Wing that really brought it over to the aesthetic side of things. So at the time, Dr. Goodhart, who is often called the godfather of kinesiology, or what we would call chiropractics today, he had discovered that you could manually manipulate the muscles, and if you worked inward from the origin and insertion point, it could improve muscle tone, or you could move outward to kind of relax or lengthen the muscle. So Dr. Wing kind of built upon these findings and decided to use microcurrent, and that's really where the field was kind of born. Now, Dr. Wing's original method is often referred to as true microcurrent, or the Golgi organ technique, as we are targeting mechanoreceptors called the Golgi tendon organs. So I will pop up a visual here somewhere, but if you think of your typical facial muscle, we have the muscle belly at the center, and then on either side we have where the muscle originates and where it inserts. And this is really where most muscles meet the tendon, essentially. The muscle belly has mechanoreceptors of its own called muscle spindles, and then at the origin and insertion point we have these Golgi tendon organs, another type of mechanoreceptor. Now, the muscle spindles are involved in contraction, and as we know, microcurrent does not cause contraction. That would be something like EMS, so we don't really need to worry about the muscle spindles in the muscle belly. What we are targeting are these Golgi tendon organs, which basically can tell if the muscle is under load. A microcurrent kind of facial treatment that is using these movements is targeting the Golgi tendon organs, again at the origin and insertion point. Now, a handheld device, as you can see, we have a set distance here. So you don't have the ability to work inward or outwards like you would like in a professional microcurrent treatment. That's not to say that you're not going to get stimulation of the skin and the benefits we kind of discussed earlier as far as increasing ATP in the skin and potentially collagen and elastin formation, helping with wound healing, helping with product penetration. And my personal belief is that we still get some stimulation, even if it's not as targeted as it would be with the GTO technique. So that's what the information that I will be utilizing in my demo, and why I'm personally a big fan of using holds with these handheld devices. So we've kind of covered the definition of microcurrent and the potential benefits, and while I wish that there was more research behind microcurrent, this is a type of treatment that most people can use, which is why I think it makes a good gift. Particularly for women, a lot of the complaints that I get from you guys is that you're noticing the tear trough area, the hollowing becoming more prominent, nasolabial folds becoming more noticeable, as well as like the marionette lines kind of jowling in this area. That's a super common complaint, and it's primarily due to those facial fat pads. Now, there's no way at home to target them directly. That would be something that you would need something like filler for. But if that's not on the table for you or not of interest, we can use microcurrent to improve the muscle tone underneath these facial fat pads, which can help kind of in their appearance a little bit. And then we can combine that with something like radiofrequency to thicken and tighten the skin over top. Combined with microcurrent, that can make those age-relating changes a little bit less noticeable if you're not interested in getting things like injectables done. So as we roll along here into skin prep and conductivity, it's really important to realize that the majority of the body's resistance to electrical current is at the skin surface. It's actually a protective function. And the more dry your skin is, the more resistant it's going to be. So when we're prepping the skin for our microcurrent treatments, hydration is super important. We also want to make sure that we're not using anything that is going to decrease conductivity, so we don't want any oils left on the skin, we don't want a high concentration of glycerin, etc. So the first thing I do when I'm prepping my skin for a microcurrent treatment is I cleanse it. And you can gently exfoliate to remove some of those dead skin cells which contribute to resistance. So you can use something like a gentle retexturizing gel or an AHA. Or if you just want to cleanse, which does aid in desquamation, you can use a non-foaming gel cleanser. This one is from Aromatica, but you can use whatever you have. Basically, you want something that isn't going to strip the skin, isn't going to worsen dryness, but is also not going to leave any residue behind that's going to interfere with conductivity. So pick your cleanser carefully, Next up, you're going to want to hydrate your skin. And I like to pick kind of hydrating ingredients that I also want driven into the skin. So, you can use a peptide serum that had, like this one is a copper peptide serum, for example, or a lot of people really enjoy arginine with their microcurrent treatments. Peptides are a great example since they have a pretty tough time getting into the skin, but they are also great humectants and will hydrate the skin. So they're going to both prep your skin for your microcurrent treatment, and they're going to benefit from that added treatment when you do go ahead and use your device. My probably all-time favorite product, though, is going to be the Kate Ryan EGF serum. You're welcome to substitute in another growth factor. I just like this one because it has a lot of minerals in here, and I find that it greatly aids in, the conductivity and in the results of my microcurrent treatments. So, pick ingredients that you want to drive into the skin that are water-based and that are going to hydrate the skin in kind of prepping your skin here. I'm actually going to speed through the skin prep right here on camera, and then we will talk about conductivity and get into the demo. Alright, so I've gone ahead and prepped my skin. You're welcome to substitute in anything that you would like. Just remember to pick ingredients that hydrate, that ideally have minerals, and that also can benefit from the added penetration. Particularly in this one, again, I have the growth factors, the peptides, and the beta-glucan, which can all benefit from being driven into the skin. Now, there is quite a lot of debate on the topic of conductivity mediums for microcurrent treatments, to the point where I'm like, use what you want and stop arguing about it. I have my recommendations that I believe, are based on the evidence that I've been able to look at. But if you have something you absolutely love, please continue to use it. Now, there are different trains of thought on this, of course. Dr. Ventura, who learned from Dr. Wing, does not recommend gels, as he says they encourage the current to kind of bounce on the surface of the skin instead of getting into the skin and the muscle tissue that we want it to get to. I have used conductivity solutions like the ones he recommends, and I've gotten excellent results. However, there is research for electrode gels and the like, so please feel free to use those as well if you prefer that added slip. What I will say is that I would not use anything that is not conductive. So you don't want to use anything that has a high concentration of glycerin, for example, or anything with oils. I also do not recommend aloe vera personally. I know a lot of you guys use it. And again, please use what you'd like at the end of the day, but there is no evidence that found it a reliable conductor, and the couple studies that we do have found the opposite, basically, that it was not a consistent conductor. So that's my only thing with it and why I don't recommend it. There are a lot of cheap electrode gel options out there if you really want that gel texture. Regardless of the medium, whether it's a gel, whether it's a more liquid solution, make sure that it has strong electrolytes. Strong electrolytes will disassociate fully in water and basically become ions, and the ions are what carry that current, where weaker electrolytes won't disassociate fully, so you'll have solute in your solutions. They're not going to be the best conductors. Some of the other mineral options out there, like fulvic or humic acid trace minerals, those are going to be your weak electrolytes, and they're not going to be ideal conductors compared to like a strong electrolyte like sodium chloride or magnesium or potassium, etc. So that would be my main thing, regardless if it's a gel, if it's an aqueous solution. Just look for those strong electrolytes. Now, if you decide to use a conductive solution, you want to make your own, totally fine. I cover this on my Instagram, for example. Just make sure that you're using a strong electrolyte like sodium chloride, for example, and just make sure that you're not using too much. I think we tend to think, the more the better. And the truth is at a certain point, if you have too much of that electrolyte, conductivity starts to decrease. And the other thing too is that it can be a little bit drying. If you kind of covered isotonic, hypertonic, and hypotonic solutions, like maybe in your basic kind of science course, then you'll know that the movement of water follows the solute. So if you have a high concentration of salt, it's going to dry out the sols, where if you have an isotonic solution, it's going to help mitigate those drying effects. So a 0.9% saline would be perfect for conductivity, and I recommend like starting at a 1% if you're making your own. And I will post more information in the description on kind of conductivity if you would like to know more, and I do have more content coming on that topic. All right, enough yapping. I'm going to go ahead and get into the demo finally. Just to keep it really easy, I am going to be using the NuFace activator in this video since it comes with the kit and I want to keep it really easy. However, I am going to be rehydrating the gel as I go with my DUI mineral solution that I've talked about on Instagram before, just to boost that conductivity. This has some nice humectants in here and it has some added minerals, but it doesn't have that nice concentration of strong electrolytes that I talked about before. So I'm using these together. So I broke my darn mist bottle, otherwise I would put this in a spray bottle, but you do want to make sure that your skin is nice and damp before you apply the gel. That way, you're locking all that moisture in there. And this has a nice little thing where you just pump the top and you can use your little spatula in there. My recommendation is to only, if you're using a gel, is to only apply it on the section that you're going to be doing. So right here, I'm just going to be starting on this section of the face. So I'm only applying the gel in this area, and then I'll be kind of reapplying where I need it as I go. I'm going to turn on my NuFace. I typically use it on the medium power. You can increase as you go if you'd like. However, if you see any contraction, make sure to decrease the power. You do not want to see muscle contraction. Now, I am going to be doing two things in this demo. I'm going to start with the way that they recommend, the basic 5-minute facial lift, and then I will cover how I modify it. So they recommend starting at the nasolabial fold and moving outwards in these sweeping motions. Hold out. Hold till you hear the beep. Then work your way up. And they recommend repeating it anywhere from 1 to 3 times for the 5-minute lift. And then they recommend you finishing with the forehead and also doing your neck area here. So I actually don't recommend the forehead, but I will get into that when we go into my modification for the treatment. Oops, I didn't hold until wait till the beep. I'm impatient. So we have this big long muscle here that goes down. They recommend starting just before that and working laterally. So I need a little bit more glide here. I do find in general that the neck will often require more glide. Okay, so we've covered the base routine, right? Like the basic routine that NuFace recommends, perfectly fine to start there. I've been testing handheld microcurrent devices for several months now, and then I've been, of course, using the NuFace Mini since receiving it last month. So I'm going to cover now the techniques that I've been adding that I feel have helped me get better results out of using a handheld device like this. So we already used one of them, which is using the Conductivity Solution. The other thing that I have found to be really helpful is a little bit of facial massage before I start my routine. As we kind of talked about earlier in the video, Dr. Goodhart started with just plain old manual stimulation, right? He found that, if you worked inward, you could improve muscle tone, starting at the origin and insertion. Right, so if I were to demo on my cheekbone here, the zygomaticus major, if I work inward, because we have one side here starting at the cheekbone, and then it goes all the way down. We have the muscle belly, and it goes all the way down and stops as we reach the orbicularis oris, or the circular muscle that goes around the lips. So if I have time, I'll do a little bit of massage, and I'll just kind of work inward to improve muscle tone. Since this is a handheld device and we have these stationary probes, I don't have the ability to work inward or outwards. I find it very helpful to just do it with my hands before, to kind of just warm things up, and it sets me up for a better treatment. So I'll do you have the major muscle and the minor one, so you could technically do them both at once. I'm just pretty uncoordinated, so I tend to do them one at a time. If you guys know me, you know that when it comes to microcurrent, my major obstacle is my utter clumsiness. We also have the risorius muscle, which starts at the corner of the mouth and stops as we reach the masseter here. So I'll do a little bit of facial massage just to kind of warm things up and do what I can't with the stationary probes. This is optional, but I try to do this when I have time, and I do find it helpful in improving the slight lift that I get. The other thing is that I avoid muscles that I can't lengthen, right? Again, stationary probes, I don't have the ability to do lengthening movements, so I'm going to avoid any muscles that contribute to dynamic wrinkles through repetitive muscle movements. So through repeated muscle contractions, you'll start to get these horizontal wrinkles on the forehead, or dynamic wrinkles, so I just avoid this area completely. The only other things that I avoid is I avoid doing the orbicularis oculi here, the circular muscle that goes around the eyes. Same deal, repetitive muscle contractions start to contribute to crow's feet. And then the last area that I avoid is the DAOs. This can be personal, but these muscles, it's like an upside down triangle that starts at the corner of the mouth and goes down to the jawbone here. These can kind of pull down the corners of the mouth and kind of give you a downturned smile. So I avoid the DAOs for me personally, as I've gotten Botox there, as I do find that the pull of this muscle brings the corners of the mouth down. So I avoid these areas entirely, and I just focus on the muscles that can benefit from an improvement in muscle tone. Now, when I get into the treatment itself, I have two trains of thought here, right? I don't think there's anything wrong with doing the glides, as these are going to, even if you're not targeting the GTOs, you're still kind of stimulating the skin and getting some benefit from that. So I don't think there's anything wrong necessarily in doing these glides if you like. I do think that you'll get better stimulation of the skin if you do a microcurrent mask, which I'll cover at the very end. But I don't think there's anything wrong in kind of doing these glides. What I've added, though, to my routine is doing more holds. So let's demo that here. So remember we talked about this cheek muscle here, where the belly is in here, and it originates and then inserts at each side here. So what I've been actually doing is I've been doing more of these holds. Because my kind of train of thought on this one is if we're doing glides, then you have one probe that's moving outwards, right? And the other probe is actually moving inward, if we think about in terms of where the GTOs are located and where the muscle belly is. So if you're doing a glide upward, let me add more actual glide here. But if we're doing a glide upward, then you have this bottom probe is moving inward, right? Which would improve muscle tone. This top one is moving outward. So it's kind of a contradictory message if we compare to the GTO technique. So, I mean, what I've been doing is doing more of these holds, because I figure, it's better to just stimulate this area versus doing opposing movements, if that makes sense. And I did play around with moving upwards and downwards to kind of cancel things out. But what I found most helpful is just to do that added hold. And I'll do a couple beats of this. So I'll wait 3 beeps. And then I'll go to this lower cheek muscle, the zygomaticus minor, and I'll do that same hold. For 3 beeps. And I'll repeat the same thing with the Rosorius here. And then this is kind of a tricky muscle to treat, right? If I do want to treat it at all, I will add a little bit of conductivity, and I'll just make sure that the 2 probes are both in contact with that muscle. So I will hold right here. Again, we're not truly targeting the GTOs, we're just kind of doing the best we can. So that's been kind of my general technique in using these handheld devices, is I will do the passes regardless. I think that's totally fine since, again, we are getting some stimulation of the skin, and we're helping drive those ingredients that we applied earlier into the skin. So I do think it's fine if you want to still do those passes. And we might still get a little bit of stimulation of those GTOs. So I think it's fine to do this. It certainly can't hurt, right? So I'll do the passes as I showed earlier for the other side. And then I will add in those holds we talked about earlier. So hold, and then I will hold down here, and hold down here. Doing 3 beeps each. So hopefully that can kind of explain. And I have compared doing just the passes to doing just the holds, doing the passes with the holds. I do find that adding the holds to one side does give me a little bit more temporary lift per treatment. But again, it's hard to say, how much. There's a difference with microcurrent between like the temporary effects that you get just from kind of that manual manipulation versus the long-term benefits. And then for this neck area, we have these long fibers in the neck that go all the way up just past the jaw and then go all the way back down, all the way down here until we reach the clavicle bones. So I tend to, and if I'm going to work the neck at all, I like to just work upwards. So I'll do a glide and then stop at the jaw. Again, with a stationary probe like this, oops, I think it's off. We're not going to be able to, treat the GTOs as precisely as we would like, but this is what I personally find to make the most sense. And obviously, again, this side I did the basic routine, this side I did the more extended routine, but you would do the same on each side. All right, you guys, I'm going to wrap this up just because I have both a human child and a puppy and a cat waiting for me to make dinner. I think that's probably for the best anyway, because I wanted to keep this really simple. Whether you just got a handheld device, or you're considering picking up a handheld microcurrent device as a gift, or you're considering buying one for yourself this holiday season, I just want to keep it very simple. The last thing I will do, though, is I will cover how to do a little microcurrent sheet mask, because I think that the way I do it differs a little bit from what you have seen. So first, you want to pick up the little dry sheet masks. They're linked in my Amazon store, so I'll link them down below. They're basically blank sheet masks, and I go ahead and I soak them in that conductive solution that I was using earlier. So once it's nice and saturated, you're going to squeeze out any excess, and you're going to apply that right on your face. Now, you don't have to get this particular mask. You can see mine has a little honeycomb pattern. Supposedly, it's supposed to be more conductive than a regular blank sheet mask. I don't necessarily think so. I think it's a little bit gimmicky. The reason I keep buying them is I just find the material to be a little bit nicer. Now, if I had my scissors, I would cut up down the nose a little bit to help it fit better. I'm just gonna rip since I don't have my scissors here. Okay, so this is on. There are two ways to do this. What I see a lot is running the microcurrent device over your sheet mask, right? I'm sure I did this when I started as well. Personally, I don't recommend this any longer because it's the same thing if you were doing a microcurrent treatment and you had the separate probes and you touch them together, right? That's going to stop the flow of current. You don't want two flows of current kind of competing and not getting into the skin. So I don't recommend using it like this for that reason. So you have two options here. You can place one probe on the sheet mask and one probe on your bare skin, and you can just hold it. I do like to turn it all the way up for this. So just make sure that one probe is on your bare skin and one is on the mask, and just hold it. We're using this bottom one as like our grounding probe, and we're using this top one on the sheet mask, and this current is going to flow through the sheet mask. So you would just hold it like this for, 10, 15, 20 minutes. The other option would be to basically hack your NuFace device. I've talked about this on Instagram. I've talked about it in other Facebook groups, and a lot of you guys have been enjoying this technique. I'm not going to cover that here, but basically you just attach two different little sticky pads, and you can either attach it to gloves, or you can put one clip on your mask and one as a grounding pad down on your neck or between your clavicle bones. I will link that in the description. You can check out how to do it via my Instagram. I've gotten a lot of great feedback from you guys kind of enjoying that hack. But for today, we'll just be covering how to hold it. So I'm gonna hold it here until my hand gets tired, basically, realistically. And then after, 10, 15 minutes, when you're done with your little microcurrent sheet mask, you can peel it off here. I didn't do it for the full couple minutes just because I have to go, but you can see things already look a lot calmer just doing the 5 minutes that I had time for. If it was morning, then I would of course do vitamin C and sunscreen to protect my skin. Since it's nighttime though, I'm going to go ahead and do my retinoid and use a nice rich moisturizer to lock in all this hydration that I've infused into my skin. Alright, you guys, I hope that was a fun little video. Again, just a very basic intro, so if you are already knowledgeable about microcurrent, this might have been pretty basic stuff for you, but I will be continuing to build upon this. We'll be doing more microcurrent videos, so definitely stay tuned for that. We will talk more about the GTO technique and kind of the true microcurrent technique. We'll talk about more about anatomy and muscle actions and the origins and insertions, and we'll really be building upon this video. So I hope that was helpful. If you're interested in the myolith mini that I used here, as well as the activator that it comes with, definitely check out the sale at Dermstore. There should be one more day by the time I post this video. However, Dermstore does do frequent sales as well, so if it's not in the budget right now, don't worry about it. There will always be more sales, and I will talk to you guys all really soon. Bye, you guys!